Two people begin a simple habit at the same time. Every morning, they put on comfortable shoes and walk the same route around their neighborhood. They move at a relaxed pace, pass the same houses, and return home with the same number of steps recorded on their watches. From the outside, their routines look identical. 2 months later, something unexpected appears. One person notices their waist slowly shrinking and clothes fitting differently. The other feels healthier and calmer, but sees almost no change around the abdomen. Neither changed diet. Neither exercised harder. So what happened? The difference was not the walk itself. The difference was whether their body switched fuel modes during the walk. Your body does not rely on a single energy source. It has two main fuel systems. One is fast fuel, mainly glucose circulating in your blood and glycogen stored inside muscle. The other is stored fuel, the fat kept in tissue for later use. When you begin walking, your body does not immediately reach into fat stores. It chooses the quickest available fuel first. Blood glucose is easy to access. Muscle glycogen is ready and efficient. Only after certain internal conditions appear does the body change its preference. This moment is like a quiet switch. At first, the movement is supported by recent energy. Then, as the activity continues steadily and the body senses sustained demand, it begins allowing fat to contribute. Many people unknowingly stop too soon, interrupt their walk too often, or move in a way that never lets this shift happen. They believe walking automatically burns fat, but their metabolism never receives the signal required to change fuels. Walking alone does not guarantee fat burning. Fat burning begins only after your body recognizes a stable need for energy and decides to use what it has stored. Most people assume that if walking burns calories, it must also burn belly fat. The logic feels obvious. Movement requires energy, and fat is stored energy, so the body should simply pull from that reserve every time you walk. But the body does not start with the largest fuel source. It starts with the easiest. At the beginning of a walk, your muscles rely primarily on blood glucose. If you have eaten recently, that glucose is readily available. Even if you have not eaten, glycogen stored inside your muscles can support movement for a while. This fuel is quick, efficient, and does not require complex processing. Fat is different. Stored fat must be released from fat cells, transported through the bloodstream, delivered into muscle cells, and then oxidized inside mitochondria. This is a slower, oxygen-dependent process. Your body will not initiate it unless the conditions signal that it is necessary. So you can walk for 10 or 15 minutes and burn calories entirely from glucose and glycogen. Your watch will show energy expenditure. You may feel slightly warm and satisfied, yet very little stored fat may have been used. This is where confusion begins. People equate calorie burn with fat burn. They increase step counts and duration without understanding that fuel selection is controlled internally. The body follows a fuel hierarchy. First blood glucose, then muscle glycogen. Only when those begin to decline and the demand continues does fat oxidation meaningfully rise. This means two people can walk the same distance and burn similar calories, yet experience very different fat loss outcomes. Step counters measure motion. They do not measure metabolism. Walking duration alone does not determine fat loss. The deciding factor is whether your body ever transitions from quick fuel to stored fuel during that session. Inside your body, this change depends on hormones and cellular signals. When you begin walking, insulin from your last meal may still be present. Insulin encourages the use of circulating glucose and discourages fat release. Your muscles are active, but the body sees no reason yet to access long-term reserves. As you continue moving steadily, conditions slowly shift. Blood glucose declines slightly, and insulin levels begin to fall. Another hormone, glucagon, rises and signals that internal energy may be needed. At the same time, mild increases in adrenaline encourage fat cells to release fatty acids. Inside those fat cells, an enzyme called hormone-sensitive lipase activates. It breaks stored triglycerides into free fatty acids that can enter the bloodstream. But even now, the process is not complete. Those fatty acids must still reach muscle cells and be transported into mitochondria through a carnitine-dependent system before they can be oxidized. Once inside mitochondria, beta oxidation begins, converting fatty acids into usable energy. This entire sequence takes time and requires stable oxygen delivery. That is why steady, continuous movement matters. The body must be confident the activity will continue long enough to justify the transition. The important idea is that effort alone does not trigger fat burning. The right internal conditions do. When insulin falls, glucagon rises, and mild catecholamine activity continues in a stable environment. The body finally permits stored energy to be used. Fat burning is not immediate. It is a coordinated metabolic event that begins only when your body believes sustained energy is necessary. The switch is biochemical, not motivational. Now consider what happens when your walk is constantly interrupted. You start moving, your muscles begin using glucose, and the early signals toward fat release begin forming. Then you stop at a corner, check your phone, sit briefly, or pause long enough for your heart rate and breathing to settle. Each time this happens, the body resets its assumptions. It no longer expects a sustained demand. Instead, it assumes the activity may end at any moment. When the demand appears uncertain, the metabolism returns to the fastest fuel available. Glucose again becomes the preferred source because it supports immediate movement without preparation. In contrast, a steady walk creates predictability. Your breathing stabilizes, your heart rate remains consistent, and oxygen delivery matches muscular effort. In this environment, your body commits to the slower but sustainable pathway of fat oxidation. This is the state often described as Zone 2 intensity. You are not breathless. You can speak in full sentences. The effort feels manageable rather than urgent. That calmness is not a weakness. It is the condition required for the metabolic shift. Hard walking produces a different result. When pace becomes too fast, glycolysis dominates. Your body increases reliance on glucose because it can supply energy quickly. Fat oxidation decreases even though total effort feels higher. The body only commits to using fat when it trusts the activity will continue steadily. Continuity matters more than intensity. Without continuity, the switch never fully engages. With it, the body gradually transitions to stored fuel and remains there as long as the conditions remain stable. Fat oxidation requires patience from the metabolism, not pressure from the muscles. So the solution is not to walk harder, but to structure the walk so the switch can actually occur. First, give your body enough uninterrupted time. During the first minutes of movement, your muscles still rely heavily on glucose and glycogen. As steady activity continues, the respiratory exchange ratio slowly shifts, indicating a greater contribution from fat. Around 20 to 30 minutes for many people. This crossover becomes meaningful. By staying active beyond this point, you allow substrate utilization to change rather than stopping just before it begins. Second, control the pace. Walk slowly enough that you can speak comfortably. This conversational breathing corresponds roughly to the first ventilatory threshold. At this level, oxygen delivery supports aerobic metabolism and prevents the body from defaulting to rapid carbohydrate use. Third, avoid resets. Long pauses cause the body to return to quick fuel. Try to maintain continuous movement, even if you slow slightly at intersections. Continuous fat oxidation depends on uninterrupted lipolysis. Fourth, consider when you begin. Starting a walk before a meal or several hours after eating means insulin is lower and fat release is easier. This encourages lipolysis activation because your body no longer relies on incoming nutrients. Finally, repeat the habit consistently. Walking at roughly the same time each day trains circadian metabolic entrainment. Your hormones begin anticipating the activity, and fat release becomes smoother and earlier during each session. You are not increasing effort. You are creating the conditions that allow your metabolism to choose stored energy. Over time, your body begins to interpret this pattern as normal. Metabolism is adaptive. It becomes more efficient at using the fuels it relies on most often. If you rarely allow fat oxidation to dominate, your body treats fat as a protected reserve. If you regularly cross into that fat-burning state, your metabolism begins expecting it. Predictability is powerful. When your brain senses that a certain time of day consistently includes steady movement, it prepares for it. Hormones shift more smoothly. The transition from glucose to fat becomes faster because the system has learned what is coming. This is why one isolated walk rarely changes much, but repeated structured walks can gradually reshape body composition. The body does not respond dramatically to single efforts. It responds to repeated signals. Walking becomes more than exercise. It becomes information. It tells your body whether energy is meant to be used or stored. When that message repeats consistently, the metabolic pathways supporting fat oxidation strengthen. You are not simply burning fat during a walk. You are teaching your metabolism that stored energy is part of daily life. Once fat use becomes routine rather than occasional, the body no longer hesitates to access it. And when hesitation decreases, the waste begins to change not because you forced it, but because you normalized the switch. As this becomes familiar, your mindset shifts quietly. Before, you might have believed progress required more effort each week, longer sessions, or harder intensity. Now you notice the opposite. The more predictable the routine, the more stable the results. You stop chasing exhaustion. Instead, you aim for the moment when your body settles into a steady rhythm. The walk no longer feels like a task to finish quickly. It becomes a period where you allow your metabolism to transition. You begin recognizing small signs. Hunger between meals becomes calmer. Energy feels smoother during the day. You no longer feel the urge to compensate with extra snacks after activity because your body can rely on internal fuel. These changes appear before the mirror changes because metabolic behavior adjusts before visible appearance. Your identity shifts from someone trying to burn calories to someone guiding metabolism. You are not pushing your body to work harder. You are allowing it to work correctly. You are no longer asking, "How much did I exercise today?" You are asking, "Did I trigger the switch?" Once you understand that difference, the walk gains purpose beyond distance. It becomes a controlled signal rather than random activity, and consistency replaces intensity as the measure of success. For the next 14 days, try a simple experiment. Choose a consistent time each day and take a steady walk for about 30 to 45 minutes. Keep the pace comfortable enough that you can speak in full sentences, and try not to interrupt the movement unless necessary. Do not worry about speed or step count. Instead, focus on continuity. Allow your body enough time to move past quick fuel and settle into stored fuel use. If you recently ate, wait a few hours before walking, or choose a time before your next meal so insulin is lower and fat release is easier. During these 2 weeks, observe small signals. Notice whether your hunger between meals becomes steadier, so you can pay attention to morning warmth in your hands or feet, which can indicate improved metabolic flexibility. Watch how your energy feels in the afternoon and whether you rely less on snacks. You may not see dramatic scale changes immediately, and that is normal. What you are first changing is fuel preference, not just body weight. As the body becomes more comfortable using stored energy, visible changes follow gradually. Fat burning was never about walking farther. It was about walking in a way your body understands and trusts. Give your metabolism the right signal consistently and let the results appear naturally over time.